welcome to the What podcast.
Thanks for having me, Natalie. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to have this time with you. I really appreciate getting to know you, and I would love for you to tell people what you think is the most important thing they should know about you as we get started.
Oh, what is the most important thing? Well, I've been, this journey of coaching has been a really important one. And so I think if you wanted to know anything about me, I'm probably on a lifelong journey of learning and
Hmm.
building skills. And I'm at that stage in my career now where coaching really was something I'd been thinking about for a very long time. Likely not in the capacity that most would, as far as, a career per se, but as a building block to my current career that could potentially lead into something more. But my career has been probably at the forefront of who I am and what I've built over the years. And I think that's an important thing to know about me.
Right. Would you tell us a little bit more about your career path?
Sure. Let's see. It goes way back. The funny thing I always like to say about my career is it some way, shape, or form has always been in food.
Mm.
Which is really interesting. My very, very first job, I just did an interview on this, but my very first job was in a bakery. And my father got me that job when I was 14 years old, and I did everything from baking rolls to baking chopped liver and all kinds of really interesting things in a bakery, plus doing the cash and so on and so forth. Went to school, did a degree in a bachelor's degree in arts, and I worked in the restaurant business for a number of years. I managed restaurants. And then moved from Montreal to Toronto. So I'm originally from Montreal. And we moved to Toronto in the mid 90s. And I joined Kraft Foods in sales. And I had worked for Kraft over the summers for many years because my mother worked for Kraft for 26 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was easy to get a summer job, a really good paying summer job. And I did all kinds of odds and sods roles throughout the summers that I worked at Kraft. And then when I moved to Ontario, it was an easy foray into sales, to start as a rep when I moved here. And I moved my way through various, progressive sales leadership roles throughout my 20 years at Kraft. Kraft got bought by Heinz. Now the recent news is they could be separating again. But anyway, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
And I stayed with that integrated company for about a year. And then I had the opportunity to lead a sales organization at UNFI, which is stands for United Natural Foods, a North American distribution wholesale company. We in Canada distribute natural and organic food. And 5 years ago, I was promoted to president and have been leading the company in Canada since
Wow.
then.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Congratulations. That's an
thank
amazing
you.
career
Thank
path.
you.
Seems like there was some foreshadowing there when you were young in your bakery.
Yes, this is it. So I always say that I've spent, I won't name the number of years, but it's been, quite a few years that I've been in food.
Mm. And I believe you went to McGill, which is
I did. I
part of
did.
my
I graduated.
matter. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
So,
did.
yeah, go ahead.
I did. I graduated. I did a Bachelor of Arts in Modern Languages, believe it or not. I did think I would be a speech therapist at one point in
Oh,
time. And
interesting.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
short lived.
yeah,
Anyway, long story short, I ended up where I am.
yeah. It makes me think because I also graduated from McGill in international politics. I thought I was going to be a lawyer, a big time international lawyer. Then I visited a law firm and said, no way, not doing that for the rest of my life.
We have a
But
bit in common there when you think about you don't really know what you're getting into when you
no,
get into it.
yeah. And I think that brings me
Mm,
to what I love about coaching, which is
mm,
the unknown, the exploration of what's possible and allowing things to unfold. So in all your years of sales, like training and expertise and experience, what did you notice, or I guess, was there any surprises with coaching, or like what led you to this
Hmm.
coaching course?
It's a great question. A couple of things. I would argue that probably for the last, I'd say last 10 years, I always said that if you asked me what my second career would be in, it would be in coaching.
Mm,
For a couple of reasons. One was I was coached. I've had an executive coach throughout my career. I was very fortunate. Former bosses and now mentors of mine will tell you I'm the queen of development planning, living up to expectations as it relates to always building skill, but also leadership qualities. So they come kind of hand in hand. And I'm at the stage now in my career where it's like when I think about what the next 10 to 15 years are, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, it's always about progressing, the corporate ladder and moving up. And where I see where I'm at, I'm leading a mid-sized company in Canada. I am very happy where I'm at right now in this stage. So how do I explore more without it being actually more in my current role, like meaning, more progression in my current role? Maybe I'm at the level that I'm happy at. Doesn't mean I can't take on more, but taking on more in my organization is something different. And so I just finished 6 years on the Canadian Health Food Association board,
oh,
which took up an enormous amount of hours. And I did 2 years as vice chair and 2 years as board chair, and the rest as just a director. And it took up much hours. So the time was right as I was leaving the board. I had time in my calendar to be able to take on a course.
mhm.
And so, I was at that stage where it's like, okay, Stacey, just bite the bullet. And, this popped up on my feed, and I started reading into it. And like, because I had been exploring it for, a number of years, this one came up. It was all online. I met with one of the advisors at Canada Coach Academy, who was very helpful in explaining how the process worked and, what it would entail. And I just said, you know what? I went to my company and I said, I think this would be twofold a benefit for me and for UNFI, in a sense that for myself personally, I would explore my leadership capabilities, and enhance them through getting learning on coaching, in coaching, sorry. And then secondly, I could offer up, as an extra added benefit to our organization to be a coach within our organization as an over and above of something that I could do and give back to the company. And thirdly was around giving back to the industry. So in my role, I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
founders of companies. We have about 650 different brands that we deal with
Nice.
within mine. So they can come from existing brands to brands that are, up and coming and brand new and trying to get into the space and the grocery industry in Canada. And I find that I'm doing a lot of, coaching slash more mentoring, I would say, prior to
Mhm,
taking
mhm.
the course or getting certified. It was really around mentorship. And so I felt as though coaching could enhance what I was giving back to the industry, both internally at work and externally within the industry.
Wow. So the first thing that comes to mind is that old saying, when you want something done, ask the busiest person you know. You sound like that person. So you
Yes.
have a capacity to take on a lot. And also just this wonderful idea of progression and what that sounds like for you.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit more about what is the impact that you hope to have?
Um, I think the impact is, well, what I have found, actually, what I think I would say is I think I would have thought differently when I started to where I am today,
Mm,
having taken the course and gone through it. And as I went through the course, and my peer group would tell you, one of the biggest things I struggled with was leadership versus coaching. And
Hmm.
there are similarities, but what I found was the course really benefited me from opening up my listening capabilities. Because as a leader, you're oftentimes, I'd say, driven for business results. And so you're directing versus, listening and allowing things to happen. And I think what coaching has done for me is let my team be and let my team flourish, because I am less about making change and allowing them to change. So that was a really big learning for me. So I developed, having taken the course, as if I was doing my own development plan without having written it, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting aha for me as I went through it. At the same time, it was also a little bit, you know, I tried to be a coach when I should have been a leader, and so that was a little bit, kind of conflicting, I'd say, while working. So that's something I've been working through, but I think it was helping me become better at each on each side. So when to be a coach, when to be a leader or a mentor, like
Yes.
there's definitely a difference, and you need to kind of pivot. And when you're being trained as a coach, and if you're like me and you're very by the book, oh, I got to follow all the rules, like I want to follow the model. But when you're in a business discussion, you can't always follow the model. You got to kind of pull yourself out and then bring yourself back in. But where it really helped me was when I was having a tensious conversation about something that wasn't we have to make a decision right now, or, we're going to break anything. It allowed me to sit back and not rush through things
Mm.
and really listen to other points of view, which I found extremely helpful for me as a leader.
Yeah.
Um, so I think what I set out to do end up being something completely different and beneficial to me in a different way. Um,
Hmm.
so it's a roundabout way of answering the question you asked, but really a very big learning for me, which really made me enjoy it even more, because I could really see how it changed me as a leader. And I've gotten that feedback from my team directly, saying, you've changed, because I'm coaching some of them pro bono, to practice for myself, and they know that I'm practicing, but they still want me to give them advice when I'm coaching
Yeah, of
them. So,
course they do. It's easier. Yeah, for them. Yeah.
but it's good nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to think of it as a really small intentional shift
Hmm.
that a question can bring, um, a little tiny bit of empowerment that is unexpected from, let's say, somebody who's used to having you tell them what to do. The question of, sure, I can tell you, but what do you already know about this?
Hmm.
That one question reveals so much about where a person is coming from, what
Hmm.
they know, what their experiences have been. So not only are you asking with curiosity, you're also saying, your experience matters to me, right?
Exactly.
And I trust that at maybe 80% of what needs to be done here. And
Hmm.
that's very different than coming in right with advice and not taking a moment to pause, right? This pause that you're talking about is so powerful. And I really feel like coaching is the pause, like just the question you
Very much
ask instead of the advice. Um, so and I love that your team gave you feedback, which excites me because the one thing that I say all the time is coaching, you don't need 6 months to make a difference. You can take one thing from each module of each week and apply it, and it will be felt. The
so.
difference will be felt by those around you, right?
It's so
What was
true.
that like for you? Yeah.
Well, I always liken it to, and I use this often in my coaching, especially as I'm dabbling in as one of the mentors in the program said to me once, like, when you're in the wild, like coaching out there, and practicing, you can be you a little bit more versus, when you're practicing, fully on or recording, because I have the stress about recording, by the way. So I have
Yeah.
this big stress and the test coming, like, and all that, that's, kind of makes me nervous. But when you're in the wild and you're being you, when you're coaching, I think for me was a little bit of a an opening to be a little bit myself. And I always liken it back, and I always tell this story about when I was being coached. It was probably, when I had just become a VP. God, it was a while back. And we were doing some team coaching in my organization at Kraft with the sales leadership team. And I had a coach who was the second time I had the same coach, and she was wonderful. And she had said to me, I had gotten my 360 feedback. We had all done 360 feedback. And on there, again, what kept coming up was composure
Mm.
as something I needed to work on, so easily frustrated and things like that. And she asked me those questions, at the time, being coached and not having had any training around it, I just wanted her to give me advice. You read my 360 feedback. Tell me what to do, and so I always see that on the other side now.
Mhm.
And she said to me, okay, Stacey, so tell me what it feels like when you're about to, say something and be frustrated. So I told her, I said, I get this knot in my stomach. I get like really anxious and like I feel like I'm going to confront, and then I just blow up. And she goes, well, what's happening for you at that time? So you know these questions well, Nathalie. So what's happening for you when that is? And I couldn't tell her. I said, I don't know. She was, okay, Stacey. So I'm going to ask you for the next month until we meet again. I want you to do two things. I want you to practice wait. Why am I talking?
Yeah.
And, I want you to carry a little trigger log with you. And when you get that feeling, write down what's happening for you.
Mhm.
And, I'm telling you this story verbatim. It's probably 15 years ago this happened, maybe more, but verbatim, I'm telling you exactly. I remember the book I wrote in. Okay. And this goes back to what coaching is all about, or what really resonated with me.
Yeah.
That I told her there's two. I came back a month later and I said, oh my God, there's two things that are going on. The two things were, if I disrespected somebody who was at me on something, I lost my temper and I reacted. If it could have been anything, or they came at me in a condescending way, I reacted. So I could tell, I either disrespected the individual and I reacted to that, or I wasn't being heard. And so
Mhm.
I needed to scream louder, and I didn't come across very leader like in that environment. But practicing wait showed that I could, really hold my composure. But the
Mm.
big aha for me, and why I always tell people I'm coaching this story, is that it's stuck.
Yeah.
So practicing wait stuck because I figured that out. She gave it to me as something I figured out what was wrong. So now I have the ability to sit back, and I created the accountability for myself because I had to do the trigger log. And that's how important fixing this was for me. So, and I think in my mind, anyways, what I've learned is that's the essence of coaching. It's not telling me what to do, it's giving me, things to look at, things to examine and come up with the answer to figure out what's wrong. And so, and it's helped, I think, in my coaching.
Oh yeah. I mean, doesn't it go back to Socrates? The life worth living is the examined life. It's
Yeah.
this idea of observing and evoking awareness that you were
Mm-hmm.
able to do with that exercise. I mean, we call it an observation journal. I love
Yeah.
the trigger journal too. It's great. And it's just about taking those moments to realize for yourself. Because if she had told you,
Mm-hmm.
what your triggers are, what to do and why,
Mm-hmm.
we just lose sight of the power of that, ownership, of accountability to self, as you said, this idea
Mm-hmm.
of owning it. There's no other way to say it, but owning it, right? And when it fails, you get to learn even more about that, and
Exactly.
this is so it's a little bit of trying to examine our relationship with failure as well. I
Mm-hmm.
actually read in your article the biggest decision, or the most, the riskiest decision that you took was leaving craft. Like, what is that, looking back now on that
Mm-hmm.
situation? What do you notice?
That every risky decision I've ever taken has turned out to be the best decision I've ever made.
Mm,
And so it's scary. So this is what I've learned. It's scary at first. So it's scary to fix an issue that you might have. It's scary to come back from something you really screwed up. It's
hmm
it's scary to change your environment. But every time something bad happens, or something out of the ordinary happens, that isn't in what you thought would happen, generally is for good reason. And that is, no matter how bad the situation is, I have never gone around the corner and found something more awful. To put
Right.
it lightly.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. But I love what is it Steve Jobs who said in his commencement speech at Stanford, he said, you can always connect the dots looking back. What's
Hmm.
difficult is connecting the dots looking forward. So
So
this
true.
is where the risk taking comes in, right? But
Yeah.
looking back, you kind of always knew, oh yeah, of course. Of
Yeah.
course that would happen, right? Yeah, yeah. Um, and so when you think about coaching, the impact that you've seen, I guess you've noticed, tell me a little bit about what that's been like for your team.
Uh, well, as I mentioned earlier, I think for them, I'm not sticking to my opinion as much anymore. I'm really have opened up to be more curious,
Mm-hmm.
um, get less stuck on, like, I find myself reminding, okay, Stacey, it's not a bad idea. It's not your idea all the time, and how can you listen more? And I think that's just human nature a little bit, right? As the leader, you expect to come up with the right answers. And so, there's a part to play because you're not doing all the busy work anymore, right? You're actually, the one making decisions and moving things along. And so you feel the need to have all the answers. So I've been able to step back, and I think that's really helped them, from what I can see. Um, Everywhere else, I think I'm still learning. So I'm very caught up in, being very good as a coach versus just being a coach.
Mm,
And so it's that, back to school kind of, I'm practicing, where it's not natural, so it's uncomfortable. And so, I want to make sure I do it right. So when you're in a coaching environment, and with, forget my team, just outside, with anyone who I've decided to create a relationship with, I don't consider them, they are clients to me today, but I'm doing everything pro bono right now, really because, I just want to do that until I'm, accredited in some way, shape, or form. And I have the luxury of being able to do that. And so it's good. May I form a business out of it down the road? Absolutely.
good.
But for now, this feels right, and I think that takes away some of the angst that I have to be me. And I'm very open about that I'm learning and I'm growing in this position. But when I'm in it, I feel like I can't be me, just yet. So
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm still learning. So I'm kind of in that in between stage, even though, but have I seen improvement in my ability? And, is the model coming easier to me in the flow of a session? Yes. So it's very much starting to be a little bit easier the more practice I get. But I think I'm still in my head.
Well, and isn't that like normal for learning curves, right? To
Yes.
be in strategic thinking and are evaluating our own performance all the time gets in the way of being, as you said. So the thinking, the doing, the being, there's the
Mhm.
stages of development that I think we need to respect. But it's interesting because a lot of people like you come to us with, X number of years as a professional and an expert in their own domain. And so they don't approach the program as like, a young person in school who's there to learn and the purpose is to learn. We kind of feel like I need to get this right away. And why am I not getting this? And I have this career behind me. Why is this so hard?
So true.
Which is fun because yeah.
Well, and it's also the whole, I have a, and it was at the end of the course, there was some confusion around how many hours of actual coaching I needed to be coached, right? Because I think the course introduced it after my cohort had started.
Oh,
And so there was a bit of confusion. So like in May, when I was about to finish, I was all of a sudden, I needed 10 hours of coaching, being coached. And I was like, so I panicked and I went into and I set up 10 hours of coaching, or which I finished about 7. And in the end, I didn't need it because it was, cohorts that started in the November timeframe. But I now kind of, it's a really good thing that you did do that, because in those 7.5 or 8 hours that I had in May, I really learned a ton about myself, being coached. It
mm-hmm.
was nice to see, people in the community and how they coached in the different stages that they were at, because I could see how they were following the model and where I was tripping them up, so it was an
Mm-hmm.
interesting connect. I was able to kind of get out with a coach, how I'm feeling about, the next phase, which is, getting assessed and then going for my PCC eventually. But I'm going to do my ACC first because I think that's good for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of like, taking it in phases so I can feel better about myself along the way. So the being coached aspect, it's bigger than I thought it was going to be. And I think, those that are learning probably don't realize how important that actually can be. And it was
Oh, I
beneficial.
think yeah, I think it's so, I wish I had had that element when I was in my certifications. I mean, it's been a
Yeah,
long time, but it's the one thing that kept coming up in terms of like, not only does it get you to be coached, which is can be very transformational for people as they move through, let's say a 6-month program,
right.
but also it kind of forces you to reach out to others, to get support, to be part of the peer network and community, which can be scary, I think, sometimes to reach
Mm-hmm.
out to strangers and to present yourself as a coachee. However, I have seen, I mean, the feedback that I've gotten from people who have stepped into that discomfort is that they've met lifelong friends. They've
Mm-hmm.
been seen like no one and no place ever in their lives. I like the feedback is amazing. It's so beautiful to hear the peer network that forms in this community. And it's a big part of it is because you have to be coached. So it
Yeah,
had, you know,
100%.
yeah, it had an extra gift there that I didn't realize. Because my intention was really to experience the coaching. You want to know, what do you like? What do you not like? Did that question land, or was it like, did it throw me off? And that experience helps you become a better coach for sure.
Yeah, and you get that exchange of feedback to each other as well, which I quite love, So in that whole exchange, and it's half the reason I decided to join the mastermind post that. Yeah. So I haven't been not as I would have liked to have been better. The summer has and work has been, a little bit
Yeah,
more than I would have liked. But being part of it, just getting the constant reminders, and when I can fit something in, I'm trying to.
yeah,
So which is good. I do miss, the 2 hours a week that we were having, because it was, it was just good to have it. So I've been
mhm.
meaning to go back to the classes while they're still available, just to kind of be in it, just immerse myself back into it, so that I am constantly kind of having some of it in my head. But I think the mastermind program is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've tried to join a few things along the way.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Yeah, the community was really to guarantee your investment in yourself, right? Because
Mhm.
you lead these programs, and then what? A lot of people tell me like, oh, I don't know what to do with my time anymore. On those percent on that day, those 2 hours are like feel like a void.
It's
Um, yeah, and I'm just so happy that we have that continuity, which we didn't
mhm.
have before either. Like that only started last October.
Oh, I
And I'm
didn't know
seeing
that.
this. Oh yeah, no, it's just been one iteration after another. Well, and I also noticed in your article that you mentioned feedback was such an important part of your leadership
Mhm.
style and vulnerability to be able to receive that feedback.
Mhm.
Um, I think you shared a moment where feedback wasn't always easy, and
Mhm.
I have that too, right? We all have that because, it's an affront to what you think of yourself when you hear feedback that doesn't fit, right? So that doesn't feel good. But what a great opportunity to grow if you let it in. Right?
Oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I
And
wouldn't, honestly, I would
yeah.
not be where I am today if I hadn't taken the feedback back in that day and that moment. And so from that moment forward, it was really, I think it was a game changer for me, quite frankly, in my career.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I think any leader, I remember a coach actually said to me once, because I was expressing a discomfort with receiving some feedback about a program early on in our start at the academy. And I was like, I don't know how to express what I feel. And she said, well, it's like somebody calling your baby ugly.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, that's it. That's exactly how it feels. Don't call my baby ugly. That was the best ever analogy
Oh,
I
that
could.
was a good one, actually.
It's so
Oh,
true.
it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard, but you're absolutely right. I love the flip side of if you take it, what can you do with it? And if I'm evidence of anything, that's it. And but it does have to be given in a certain way, and it depends on the person, right? For me, I needed to be hit between the eyes. Like, tell me the
Mhm.
truth. Tell it to me in a way that isn't degrading, or like tell it to me in a way that is helpful.
Mhm.
Stacey, you aspire to be this. Well, you're not doing this.
Right.
So, like, and this you need to do to be there. And so that is concrete. But to just say you don't like me, I'm going to make that a very
Yeah.
simple term. It is not enough. Just because we have a personality clash isn't feedback. Feedback is something specific and concrete. And
Yeah.
so I try very, very hard when I'm giving feedback to be specific around the need and what I'm seeing versus any relationship things, or peer group things going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I work with leaders, I take them through some positive feedback models, right? Of
Mm,
start with an appreciation. There must be something you can acknowledge, right?
exactly.
And then observe and offer impact. Because, like you said, it's too easy to just throw out criticism
Hmm.
without what's the impact of that? And then what do you want to see
Hmm.
instead of just leaving it hanging like, well, you did this and go figure it out. It's this idea of saying, I'm here to partner with you. As a
Exactly.
leader, that partnering, I actually think that leaders can really differentiate themselves by partnering instead of just like, and it's not their fault, actually. Most leaders don't even know how to skillfully deliver feedback.
This is it. This is you're
It's
bang
not
on.
unawareness, right? It's not because they don't want to, they just don't know.
They don't know. And oftentimes, unfortunately, people, and in my situation, the one time when I was finally, it was like almost too late. Like, I had been passed over for promotion, because my boss, it wasn't even my boss who provided me the feedback, lacked the ability to provide me the appropriate feedback in the moment for me to
Mhm.
course correct. And so it took someone just telling me the truth. Here's what happens, Stacey, when we talk about you, around a leadership table. And he could have given me, my boss at the time could have given me that feedback, and he just didn't. And
Mhm.
to your point, either they don't know, haven't been trained, or it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's not every leader is capable.
Yeah, and that speaks to withholding and that's also another way of not giving that gift is to withhold it. And I've
Yes.
always said that, the worst thing you can do is not give the feedback. The
Mm-hmm.
best example of that is spinach in your teeth. If you have
Yes.
something in your teeth, you want to let somebody know, right? That's the best kind of
Absolutely.
visible we can all relate to that example, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you think about what's next for you, I know you talked about progression. What does the ideal vision look like for you?
Well, I had two goals in 2025 as it related to, having taken the certification. Three goals. One was to complete it and get certified, which I am. So I'm very pleased. Fully got my little um, plaque, the certification. I'm working towards, I have my 50 hours now, so I can get assessed. I'm just afraid to get assessed. So I'm working through that.
That's fair.
So I have found a partner within the community who I'm working with, and hopefully with her, I'm going to be able to record something that I'll feel comfortable assessing. And I want to spend, between now and the end of the year, getting my 100 hours and really practicing and preparing, hopefully having passed the assessment to get to go for my ACC to start kind of the process there. As far as I eventually would love to take the business course you offer. I think I'm still a ways away because I'm not. Right now I'm going to do it within the industry. I'm going to coach at UNFI. I want to be a resource here. My job is fairly busy, so giving the extra hours is more around my development and helping the company and the industry. So I think that's what I envision for the next couple of years, I would say, maybe until I'm formally, at 500 hours and do the PCC and all that kind of.
Mm.
And then really kind of looking at, okay, what does the next 5 years look like? Should I start building a repertoire and, having this, maybe working for other companies within our industry, as a consultant, do a little bit of, I'd like to get trained in different types of assessment giving and things like that. So maybe I have a balance, maybe do some team coaching. I think
Mm-hmm.
that could be very beneficial. So I'm still, I'd say, playing the field as it relates to coaching, um,
Yeah.
to use a metaphor.
Yes.
But I think, like I'm dabbling. I feel really good and proud of myself to have accomplished it and to
Yeah.
stay engaged in it. So that for me feels like I got a ton of learning and great stuff. So it was a big check mark for me.
Well, that's so good to hear. And I love that, you know, I think about me, like I'm 51 and I feel like I'm just getting started. Like I don't think about retirement. And I hear the same energy in you, like
Oh,
what's next? And
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I'm a little bit further ahead than you, in the age. So I'm at that time where it's like, it's, well, what do you do? And I think it also comes to, there's a point in time where you may not you want to be, like, I always want to be working. I'm sure I'll be working till I'm 90. And, my
Mhm.
mom, who's about to turn 80, is still working.
Oh,
And
amazing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
she's, now she's a travel agent selling cruises, going on cruises, but,
That's the best.
absolutely. So I do think I have a lot of her in me in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So it's, I think there'll be the right balance at some point in time over the next 5 or so years. I think it'll just come when it comes is the way I'm looking
Yeah,
at
and
it.
I think you're describing what a lot of people, so we have like sort of segments of our community, and a big part of our community is people transitioning out of careers, like, 30, 40-year careers, to have more flexibility, more mobility, and to sort of pay it forward, right?
Yeah,
To take all your beautiful experience and to share that and offer and supporting others,
exactly.
like you're mentioning.
Yeah. So, or I'm gonna stay at UNFI, maybe just do this full time for them.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be. I'm excited that I went through the process. I enjoyed it so much. Like I can't remember when I went to school and enjoyed things as much.
Yeah.
So, which was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that clearly showcased to me, anyways, that definitely was something I should have done. So I'm
Mhm.
happy that I did.
Great. And what did you like? So you're a professional leader, you big role. What did you feel most supported by? Because there's a lot of people listening who are thinking about certification, who
Oh
are like,
yeah.
oh, I don't know, what to choose. Could you share a little bit about what helped you make a decision, and also what supported you through the program?
Yeah, for me, the decision was timing was right. Really, that's what it boiled down to when I think about where I was, and where our business was. And My team is a well-oiled machine. So I have support at home, I have support at work. So it was
Mm,
just the timing was very good for me to embark on it. My company supported me financially to take the
there you
course,
go.
as part of my development and being able to give back to the organization. So that was also part and parcel. So for me, it was kind of a natural fit. Like I said, I came off that board, so I had the hours that I could give
Yeah,
in a different way. So all of that kind of was the timing was just right. Uh, the reason the program was perfect for me and what I loved about the community and everything was just the online presence. I just
yeah,
thought it was extremely easy to navigate. It was, a community that I probably could have used differently, kind of had I had a better kind of entrenchment at the beginning. And maybe that's part and parcel because I have a full-time job and I couldn't be like on the community, 7 days a
right.
week. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I couldn't treat, I would have liked to have taken the course with nothing else to do. Like, I have a year off and I'm going to do this, like that would have been the ideal state. Only to really immerse myself because I think the community had a lot to offer that I couldn't always participate in.
Mm,
So
mm,
that's why I love the 2 hours. Now I'm trying to fit all these things into my schedule that wasn't the same 2 hours every week.
right.
So I like that. I like the easy engagement. Like I felt as though whenever you went online, people responded very easily. The staff, like everyone that works within the environment and their roles, were always very helpful. A lot of great tools available also, and particularly in the mastermind. I love all the tools that you're given to use. One thing would be great, and I don't know that this exists, but it's like how do you get trained on these tools? Because
Right.
you don't
Yes.
learn them all, and I read them and they're so fantastic, but like it's like I need someone to explain this to me so that I can therefore know when to use it. Like when something comes up, that type of thing. But I'm sure with time and time spent on it that I'll figure stuff out. But that's what I would say. It's a one stop shop, which I really was very good for me.
Good. Yeah, and that's great feedback. Because one of the things that I have on my list of to-dos is to do a little video that goes with every tool on how to use it.
Oh,
Like that,
I
wouldn't
love
that
it.
be yeah,
I'll watch them
that's the
all.
dream. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's very good. And I found the resources also. Our facilitator Sherry, she was awesome. She would, if you had a question, she would point you. Like I remember, I was working on coaching somebody at work, but I was through a 360 degree, through a 360, and I wanted to understand, like how's the best way to coach through that,
Mm,
like because we're going to read and debrief on the 360. So she sent me to a website. I have it saved, of a place where she gets tools, and so I was able to purchase a few tools, that were for very minimal dollars, like that would help me guide a conversation coaching wise on a 360 feedback, how to build the development plan. Even though we have tools at work, this had like some extra coaching questions, you would
mm-hmm,
ask versus the way I would normally do a development plan. And they
mm-hmm,
really worked well. So, like having those people within the program and also outside of it through Mastermind is really helpful to just get answers to small questions.
mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's good that you're getting the resources that you were looking for. I mean, that's one of the things that we really hope to provide people. That there's no that's the thing that I think is I don't know if it's taken for granted, but just that opportunity to get an answer to your questions
Yeah.
is I think a really big you know I don't know if it's a really nice thing to know. That you can finish your program and you
Yeah,
can
all the
still
time.
yeah, you can still get those answers as well even after your program is done.
Yeah. So it's really good.
Yeah. So, what do you think about coaching culture within your organization? Like, what does that look like? And is
Well,
it? Yeah.
uh, I don't know that it exists. to be frank. And I think that's part of the reason why and I don't know that it does in many, to be
Oh,
to be
yeah.
perfectly honest. And I think, there's been talk in the community around this, like just through conversation. And when I bring it to, my organization, and you can tell because the HR community, I would say, is very understanding of what coaching is and what it can do. I think it's the senior leadership that, maybe is not quite there. And it's not that they're not there. I think there's a misconception around mentoring, coaching, sponsorship, and everybody has different points of view on what each of those things are. And the course really clearly outlines it, so it's been very helpful in my conversations, is taking some of that information and being able to share it back on what I would do differently as a coach versus a mentor, because we have formal mentor relationships, like a mentor marketplace, and we have mentor circles available through our Women's Integrated Network. So there's a lot of great tools on being able to get mentorship, but not a lot around coaching and why we would coach somebody. So I think, part and parcel, they are giving me the ability to bring that to light. And we started to go high within the organization, meaning, let's start at the top. And we've dialed it back. I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we I'm going to do it with my team, because my team and people within my org that I, more have, some control of. And then, like, that's not as easy because people don't want to be coaching with the president. It's kind of uncomfortable from that perspective.
Yeah.
But nobody in the US reports to me. So there are a lot of people within the
Hmm.
org who would benefit from getting coaching from me in the US, who I don't have any kind of hand in their day-to-day job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to do it with, high potential individuals. But they were just going to give them to me and say, here, go get coached. And I said, no, what's going to happen is I need a sponsor, which is their boss. And the boss and I have to understand, like, why is this individual getting
Yes.
coached? Is he or she want to move up in the world, and there's something stopping them? So we found somebody. So there's a one, and I want to start to build what it could look like versus
Mm-hmm.
just taking on people, which was my original thought. Was I was just going to take on people, get hours, and do it that way. But I think I want to do it in a way that builds a coaching culture within the
Mm-hmm.
organization. And I think I can do
Mm-hmm.
that, but it has to be one at a time, and I have to develop it. And this will be like kind of a pilot, if you will, this one person. And meanwhile, I'll do the testing and dabbling, with my own team, where I know I can just be in the wild and do my thing. Whereas with the org, because the US is a much bigger entity of the total company, right? Canada
Yeah.
is a very, very small piece of the total North American
Yeah.
business.
Well, good for you for bringing in the structure around it. Like, the stakeholders have a huge part to play. And what's the measure of success if you don't take those steps, right? To get into the sponsor, as you called it. You know, what are the opportunities for this person? I love the possibilities wheel for that. Give one to the
Yeah,
sponsor, give one to the person being coached, have some competencies and see how they come out,
well, that's
rating
a
it.
good one. Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't even have thought of that.
Oh, it's such a good one to see the gap. Like, this is where the sponsor believes the development is required. This is where the coachee believes, and then that's where you can start the conversation. And it's such a simple yet effective approach to development. But I think what you're talking about is the framework, the opportunity to bring a framework around it in is, I think, what more organizations need, because kind of like the leader who doesn't know how to give feedback, it's not that they don't want to, they just don't know the right steps, or they're unskilled. This
Right.
is the same thing, right? People like coaching, they like the word coaching as a
Yeah.
leader, coaching culture, but what is it and what does it look like and how do we do it?
Yeah, and I
And
think that's where they get stuck, right? And they think they want to do one thing, and it ends up turning out to be something else. And so I think I have an opportunity based on everything I've learned, and it's a space I enjoy. So, like, I think I can build it. And they're in no rush. So I think we can build it, with all the other tools going on around them that, it
Yeah.
could eventually just morph into something bigger and broader.
Mm. Oh, that's amazing. That's wonderful
Yeah.
to hear. You
Some,
know, and
there was another company that I worked with. A friend of mine is the SVP of HR over there. It's a Canadian company, and they have this development month. And they were explaining to me how they use the Grow model as a basis for their leadership, which I thought was very interesting. So they are bringing that
yeah,
in
yeah,
as part of leadership training when they're bringing. So, not all companies, but I thought that was pretty interesting. And I joined them in their development month as one of their coaches. And they gave like
nice.
a free coaching hour to their associates during development month if you signed up. And so it was really interesting to coach only one session with a person who you had just a little background on, like no
Yeah,
intake, no nothing. So it was a real challenge, but it was a good way to kind of really flex my muscle and the model and kind of go through the process with folks that weren't familiar, but at least had a little bit of background on what coaching was all about.
yeah. Well, I mean, I love that approach. I mean, the Perform framework is really a grow model stretched out,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
is.
has all the same sort of elements. But if we take away the frameworks and we take away the competencies, what we're really saying is approach every conversation with intentionality.
Yeah.
And that's what the framework brings.
Mm.
Instead of how we often approach conversation, which is reactive and some often unplanned, hallway, phone call, maybe a topic comes up in a meeting that wasn't planned. So it's about saying, okay, if I'm intentional when I approach every single conversation, what does that look like? Well, it
Mm.
starts with let's define what do we want to get from this conversation,
Yeah.
right? And then it's like, and what impact will that have? And what's the ideal outcome?
Yeah.
If we started every conversation, it's just that we say, oh, it's a framework, and suddenly we're like, oh, I don't know how to do that. But really, it's just this like arc of questions that lead to intentional conversations. And yeah, it's not there yet in organizations, but I love to see. I'm working with two in particular right now who are just diving into adapting and adopting the coaching framework and culture
Oh,
within their organizations. And it's just fantastic to see the results. So
yeah, I
yeah.
want to learn more about, what I can do. So I'll probably bring that to the community somehow to get some advice as I kind of get started on this pilot. I'm doing something also. I'm hoping to do something with Women Food and Management, which is an association within our industry, where I am going to offer to six. I think I can handle maybe six clients for 6 months, like, do like 1 hour a month with six clients. And these are entrepreneurs just starting out, who probably need business coaching per se.
Mhm.
And, how can I offer up? So I'm creating that program as well. So I'm trying to dabble in different areas because I think where I'm really strong is it's creating like organizational, programming structure. Like that's something that I've always and I'm passionate about it, quite frankly. So I think that's something that might be of interest, more in creating on top of the coaching. I think.
Mhm. Oh, it sounds great that I mean, I just love the creativity you're bringing to it, the experimentation. I think that's where, good things begin, where innovation starts anyway. And yeah, and just congratulations on all this hard work and this accomplishment.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for the great program and the great learning experience and the ongoing learning you get through the whole continuing on with the community through Mastermind. I think was a wonderful, addition for me, anyways, as an ability to stay connected.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, for saying that and for the support. So I wonder what is one thing that you want people to know about coaching that maybe you didn't know before you started the program? That was
Yeah, I actually wrote something down.
oh good.
Yeah, I just said, and it really encompassed, like I wrote down a whole bunch of things about, why I started this, what I did. And like I have two, I'd say like reflections, if you will. And one of them is about, when I started down this journey, leadership is all about delivering results through people. Coaching is about unlocking results from within people.
Mm.
And I thought, like as I kind of put all my words together from everything I've done, over time, I'm learning. I haven't learned yet, but I'm learning to blend both. So I'm still in
Mm.
that learning mode, I think, leading with clarity and direction when needed. So as I said earlier, that was really important to me. And coaching to build capacity and confidence in the people that work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the shift has not only changed how I lead, but it also has deepened my own growth and fulfillment. And
Mm.
so for me, that kind of encompasses everything I wanted to say today, like about it, because I think coaching has complemented my leadership capabilities, and it's made me a more confident leader, and I think a more thoughtful leader,
Mm.
versus one that just kind of leads. So there's more substance to my leadership.
Wow, that's amazing. It's so well said. And I feel like you alluded to something early in our conversation. I think you said learning to I guess guide people to change what they want to change versus leading them through change. So this idea of, not being the one to drive the change, but to allow others, to guide, to partner or support others to change. I think that's an important distinction that makes so much difference. And I love that you ended with fulfillment because that's what it's all about.
That's what it is. You're right. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
Well, I really appreciate this time. You'll let Lauren know where people can reach you, I hope, or we're going to include that in the post in the show notes. If you want to let people know, I don't know if you have a website or if you have anything.
No, I honestly I don't. But I'm happy to leave my email that I'm using for clients, which is outside of my work, and so which I think she has. She has both my work and my,
Perfect.
but the
Yeah.
the one that is my, I'll call it my work, my second work, my
Yeah.
coaching
Yeah.
email is the best way to probably get a hold of me, and or on LinkedIn. I'm
Okay.
generally good there as well.
We'll put both. We'll put a link to your LinkedIn and your email. And I just want to
Okay.
say how much fun this was. Thank you so
Oh, I'm
much.
glad. It was fun. Yes, thanks. And thanks for making it so relaxing and easy. I'm always worried when I'm doing these podcasts. I don't know. Or being on
You're
camera.
a very easy guest.
Okay, good. Phew. I feel better now.
Well,
Well,
thank you,
it's
Steve.
super nice to meet you too and have some one-on-one time with you, Natalie. I hope to see you in the community somewhere and chat again.
Oh, for sure you will. For sure. For sure.
Okay. All right. Take care.